It is 1960, on an ordinary British street. The air smells of coal from a back boiler. A thin smog sits over the rooftops on a cold morning. Subscribe to the channel today for more stories about Britain's homes between 1955 and 1960. Look at the houses in a straight line. Most are terraced houses with soot-dark brick. Some are semis with a small front garden and a low hedge. A few streets still have a prefab at the end of the row. You hear the BBC home service through a thin wall. You hear a kettle on a gas ring in the scullery. You see washing on a line because dryers are rare. People want stability after the war years. Food rationing has ended. Old habits remain in the kitchen. Families still measure tea, sugar and butter with care. A mum walks to the local shops with a pram. She buys bread, tinned fruit and a newspaper. A dad leaves early for work with a wage packet in mind. On Saturdays, some families stop at a Lyons tea house in town. A new Austin or Morris sits by the curb in better streets. A Ford Zephyr passes on the main road. Kids step around puddles and milk bottles on doorsteps. Now here is the shock. In many towns, a decent house in 1960 could cost around $2,000 to $3,000. Some council estates cost less each week. Many families waited years for a key. That number feels unreal today. It also came with cold rooms, damp corners, and constant small repairs. It came with pride, because the street was changing fast. Next, we need to see why Britain was still rebuilding in the late 1950s. You just heard a price that sounds impossible now. To understand it, you need the Britain that built those streets. The war is over, but the damage is still visible in 1955. Many towns still have bomb sites behind hoardings. Some streets have empty gaps where houses once stood. Local councils talk about slum clearance every week. Old terraces have outside toilets. Old terraces have patchy wiring. Damp is common in many rooms. Rationing ended, but the habit stayed. Families still reuse jars. Families still save string. Second-hand furniture is normal for young households. Coal is still the main heat in many homes. The Great Smog is a recent memory for London families. The Clean Air Act changes what people burn. The change takes time. There is also a new mood in the late 1950s. The 1953 coronation pushed a feeling of reset. More homes now have a radio in every room. Some homes now have a television. Housing becomes a national obsession because the shortage is severe. Newly married couples often live with parents in one room. Some families take a council flat because it is the only secure option. Prefabs are still in use, even though they were meant to be temporary. Some prefabs are warm and practical. Many prefabs feel cramped. Repairs depend on council budgets. Governments promise more building. Harold Macmillan pushes higher targets as housing minister. By the end of the decade, large estates rise on the edge of towns. You can see the change in the new suburbs. Roads are wider. Pavements are cleaner. A small garden becomes part of the new ideal. In Part 3, we split the story. We look at council homes and private sales side by side. Britain is building, but not everyone is buying. In 1955 to 1960, the biggest split is simple. Some families get a council house. Other families try to buy a home on the open market. A council house is not a shortcut. It often means a long waiting list. It means forms, inspections and letters from the town hall. Many couples start in one room with parents while they wait. Some move into a prefab because it is available. Some accept a flat on a new estate because it has an indoor toilet. Council estates feel new and strict. The roads are planned. The gardens are small but usable. The rent is paid weekly, and it feels predictable. Security of tenure matters. A council key can mean steady life. It can also mean rules about pets, repairs and noise. Private sale is different. It needs a deposit. It needs proof of steady work. It often needs a building society loan. Your pay packet decides what street you can reach. In some areas, a terraced house is cheap but worn. In other areas, a semi costs more because it has a garden and better schools. Postcode matters even before people say the word. Some districts still carry soot, noise, and bomb gaps. Other districts get new bus routes, new shops, and cleaner air. Renting is not simple either. After the Rent Act of 1957, some controls change. Some tenants face higher rents or pressure to move. That pushes more families to chase ownership. In the next part, we follow the money step by step. We look at deposits, building societies, and the real weekly budget. Buying a house in 1955 to 1960 is not a casual decision. It is a family plan built around wages and risk. Most buyers do not go to a bank first. They go to a building society. They ask what they can borrow on one income. A deposit is the first wall. Many couples save for years. They use savings clubs over time and careful weekly budgets. Some get help from parents. Some sell a motorbike or a small car. Some delay the wedding to build the deposit. The wage packet shapes everything. Pay often comes in cash each week. A dad counts notes at the kitchen table on Friday night. The first slice goes to rent or the mortgage. The next slice goes to coal, gas, and electricity. The rest goes to food, shoes, and the bus fare. Hire purchase is common for appliances. A fridge or a washing machine can be a weekly bill. Some homes still rely on a mangle or a copper for laundry. Buying a home can mean postponing new things. Interest rates are a quiet fear. People do not use that phrase at the table. They still worry about the payment going up. Job stability matters more than pride. Many buyers choose a smaller house to stay safe. Many buyers avoid stretching for a better street. A new mortgage also brings new costs. There is maintenance that landlords once handled. There are repairs that appear in the first winter. A cold corner shows damp. A roof shows a leak. A chimney needs attention after heavy coal use. This is why the 1960 house price number is only the start. The real cost includes the weekly strain and the constant upkeep. In Part 5, we walk inside these homes. We look at what daily life was like room by room. $1 in the late 1950s is not a small detail. It is a weekly decision inside the home. Start with heat. Many houses still depend on a coal fire in the front room. A back boiler may sit behind the grate to heat water. Coal is carried in and ash is carried out. The fireplace is cleaned often. The smell stays in curtains and rugs. The kitchen tells you the age of the house. Older terraces have a scullery at the back. It is a workspace with a sink, a draining board, and cold surfaces. Some kitchens still have a copper for washing clothes. Some families still use a washboard. A new electric washer is a status change. Floors show the budget. Lino is common and practical. Carpet often stays in the front room only. Paint is simple and repeated. Wallpaper is chosen to hide stains and marks. Curtains are thick to block drafts. Damp is a constant problem. It appears behind wardrobes. It appears in corners where air does not move. That is why airing cupboards matter. A warm cupboard becomes a tool for daily life. It dries clothes and warms towels for baths. Bathrooms are not equal across streets. Many homes have a bath in a small room upstairs. Some still share toilets outside in older rows. Hot water can be limited. Bath night can be once a week. Water is planned like a schedule. New estates change these routines. Council houses often include indoor toilets and better layout. Mid-century design can bring wider windows and brighter rooms. People notice these differences fast. They pay more for less damp and easier heat. They pay more for a bathroom and a cleaner kitchen. In Part 6, we bring the numbers back. We look at what houses cost in 1960 by type and area. In 1960, the numbers were real, but they depended on the house and the street. Across Britain, the average home price sat a little above $2,000 at the start of the decade. A basic terraced house in a working town could be listed around $1,500 to $2,200. A semi with a small garden often sat closer to $2,200 to $3,500. A newer suburban semi could push higher if it had modern wiring and a better layout. A house that needed repairs could drop fast if there was damp or a poor roof. Now put those prices next to pay. Average weekly earnings in 1960 were under $10 for many workers. That meant a house could cost several years of wages. That also meant buyers watched every weekly payment. A couple would compare a mortgage to rent on a council estate. They would compare it to coal, food, and hire purchase on a fridge. In many streets, a good house meant simple things. It meant less damp and a warmer front room. It meant an indoor toilet and a bath that worked. The shock is not just the price in pounds. The shock is how normal families made it work with tight weekly budgets. In Part 7, we go street by street. We compare London and the commuter belt with northern towns and coastal districts. The 1960 price only makes sense when you add the map. Location already controlled the whole game. London was the hardest place for ordinary buyers. Wages were not high enough for many streets. Rents and deposits felt heavier in the capital. People looked outward. They looked to the commuter belt and the new estates near rail lines. They aimed for a semi with a small garden and a shorter journey. The green belt shaped the spread. It pushed growth into planned edges and new towns. Places like Harlow or Stevenage sold the idea of a cleaner start. In inner London, bomb gaps still existed. Some streets were patched together after clearance. Some families stayed in cramped rooms and waited for council keys. In northern towns, prices could feel more reachable. A terraced house near mills or docks could be cheaper. It could also be colder, older, and more worn. Industrial cities carried soot and noise. Coal fires and factory air marked the brickwork. Families accepted it because work was close. Coastal towns had a different pattern. Some streets were modest and seasonal. Some areas charged more for air, views, and visitors. Birmingham and Manchester had big rebuilding zones. Liverpool and Sheffield had clearance and replacement estates. Postcodes began to define schools, shops, and pride. Council estates could reset a family's prospects. They offered indoor toilets and better layout. They also placed you far from old neighbours. So cheap often meant trade-offs. It meant distance, damp, or outdated plumbing. It meant learning how to fix things yourself. In Part 8, we go to the repairs. We look at prefabs, renovations, and the culture of making do. Many homes in 1955 to 1960 are not finished products. They are ongoing projects. Prefabs are the clearest example. They were built fast after the war to solve an emergency. By the late 1950s, many are still in use. Some prefabs feel modern compared to old terraces. They can have indoor toilets and practical kitchens. They can also feel thin in winter and hard to maintain. Repairs become part of family routine. A leaking roof is handled with patches first. A damp wall is treated with paint and time. DIY is not a hobby in many houses. It is how you keep the place livable. People fix what they can afford to fix. They replace a window before they replace a door. They lay lino before they buy carpet. Many upgrades are done one room at a time. The front room is improved first because guests see it. The kitchen comes later because it costs more. Wiring is a common weakness in older streets. Sockets are few. New appliances increase demand fast. A fridge is becoming more normal. A vacuum cleaner is more common than in the early 1950s. A washing machine is still a major purchase. Heating is another limit. Coal remains standard in many areas. Some families shift to cleaner fuels as rules tighten. Bathrooms can be upgraded, but not quickly. Some homes add a small water heater. Some keep a weekly bath routine because hot water is limited. Council houses change the repair burden. The council handles some maintenance. Tenants still adapt the home with curtains, shelves, and garden work. This culture shapes the market. A cheap house often means needs work. A better house often means already improved. In Part 9, we step outside again. We follow the rise of suburbs and mid-century street design. By the late 1950s, the edge of many towns is changing fast. New suburbs spread into fields and former allotments. The street plan looks different from the old terraces. Roads are wider. Pavements are straighter. Lampposts are spaced with a clean pattern. Bus routes extend to serve the new estates. New stops appear near rows of fresh semis. Commutes become part of daily planning. Cul-de-sacs start to appear in newer layouts. They reduce through traffic. They create quieter streets for families with children. The houses carry mid-century choices. Many semis have bay windows to bring in more light. Many have a small hallway that separates rooms from the front door. Gardens become a key selling point. A small front garden signals care and privacy. A back garden becomes a place for washing lines and weekend jobs. Fences and hedges define boundaries. Sheds hold tools and coal. A path leads to a back door used all day. Inside, layouts aim for efficiency. Kitchens are smaller but more practical. Dining spaces start to feel less formal and more daily. New materials show up. Concrete tiles and new brick styles appear. Window frames change with newer building methods. Local shops follow the houses. A parade of shops opens with a grocer, a chemist, and a newsagent. The corner shop becomes a daily stop for bread and cigarettes. Cars change the street rhythm. More homes plan for a driveway or a garage. An Austin or Morris outside signals a different budget. This suburban shift creates a new dream. It is about space, order, and a cleaner start. It is also about leaving older streets behind. In Part 10, we compare then and now. We return to what those 1960 prices really mean today. You now know how a British home felt in 1960. You also know why the price can sound unreal today. Back then, a house was cheaper in pounds. Back then, the weekly strain could still be severe. Many homes were cold for most of the year. Many homes had coal fires and limited hot water. Many homes had damp that families fought every winter. Space was tighter and storage was basic. Privacy was thinner in terraces and shared walls. Streets were louder with children because more families stayed local. Council estates gave security to many households. They also placed families under rules and long waiting lists. Private buyers gained control but took on every repair. Now the market feels different. Prices are higher and deposits are a bigger barrier. Mortgage costs can swing faster when rates move. Modern homes have central heating and better insulation. Double glazing reduces noise and drafts. Bathrooms and kitchens are expected to work without planning. Some things were lost. Local shops are fewer on some estates. Neighbour ties can be weaker when people move more often. Some things improved. Homes are healthier and safer in many areas. Old streets have been renovated instead of abandoned. The 1960 price still matters because it shows a gap. It shows how wages, land and supply stopped moving together. That is the truth behind those 1960 prices. What did your parents or grandparents pay for their first British home around 1960? What was the street, the town and the type of house? Tell me in the comments what they remember most about living there.